Elizabeth Talbert, and thank you for tuning into my final persuasive speech presentation. Whenever it's time to switch slides, a green dot will appear on the screen, signaling that you should be hitting the next key or the space bar so that the next slide will pop up. And with that, have you ever been scrolling through social media at work and a not so appropriate post or advertisement popped up on your feed? Well, this happened to my boss. One day on a particularly slow afternoon, we were both looking at her newsfeed while she was scrolling through her phone. An advertisement for a male enlargement product popped up on her newsfeed. There was a pause. I think we were both a little bit shocked at what we were seeing, and then we started laughing. I ended up looking up the product on my phone, we started making jokes about it, and then we went on with our day. Later that same day, I was on my social media account scrolling through Facebook, and the same advertisement for that product popped up on my phone. Now, this wasn't a coincidence. The reason why social media platforms are free is because they gain their revenue from advertisements, and these advertisements are now tailored towards the user. Advertisers are able to tailor their advertisements towards users on social media because of a little thing called cookies. So cookies are data packages that go hand in hand with web browser usage. So if you've ever gone on the internet to a website that you've visited before, when you're typing in that website in your search bar and it auto-populated, that's because of cookies. They remember your web browser usage, what you search for, what you shop for, and store that information in data packages. There are companies that access these data packages and are able to build profiles about you on what your web browser usage is, what you shop for, what you look up, and this information is then sold to social media. So this brings up the concern that there should be no expectation of privacy when using social media. If you define privacy as two distinct spheres, user to user and user to third party, it becomes evident that there really isn't any privacy between either. Focusing on third-party entities, these are companies or agencies that have access to your information that aren't other users, and they're not the social media platform itself. So one of the big players in this third-party advertising agency is the Digital Advertising Alliance. So this is a company that probably knows a lot more about you than you do about it. I actually hadn't heard of the Digital Advertising Alliance until I started doing research for this topic. And the Digital Advertising Alliance has profiles for individuals with information on their online shopping usage, their web browser usage. It's basically what you do on the internet, what you look up, what are your interests. And this information is then sold to social media platforms. Facebook was actually part of the Digital Advertising Alliance, and those social media platforms sell that information to advertisers. So these targeted advertisements are using your personal information. The reason why we should care is because of American teens, about 90% have at least one social media account. And of American adults, about 65% have at least one social media account. And these numbers are based on statistics conducted by a 2015 study by the Pew Research Center. So odds are, if you don't have a social media account, someone that you know and care about does. And there is a want for privacy when using social media. Another study conducted by the Pew Research Center and Harvard University's Berkman Center for Internet and Society found that of teens, about 60% of their profiles were private. However, even with a private profile, your information isn't necessarily safe. Of teen profiles, about 90% have a picture of themselves on their profile as their profile picture. So someone who isn't friends with you can still see this picture, and if you're using your real name, they'll know what your name is and what you look like. Additionally, about 75% of teens include their school name in their social media accounts, maybe in their About section or their Bio section. And oftentimes these sections aren't private either. So you could have a stranger who potentially knows what your teen looks like, where they go to school, and what their name is. And for a particularly vulnerable demographic, it's pretty scary that all that information is accessible to someone who isn't connected with them, isn't friends with them, even if that person has a private profile. Additionally, in a 2013 case, the High Court of Ireland ruled that posts on a private Facebook page are not made just to the friends of the poster, but to the public at large. So this case was centered around a post made to a private Facebook page that ended up being shared. Since it was shared, someone that original poster, who wasn't friends with them, saw it, and they deemed this a violation of privacy. However, when they went to court over this topic, the High Court ruled that since that post did have the ability to be shared, it really wasn't private information. This also brings up the topic of going viral. So if your videos are shared, there's a chance that it could catch on, be shared thousands, possibly millions of times, and have millions of views. An example of this is when publicist Justine Sacco tweeted, "Going to Africa, I hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white." So she only had a following of about 100 people on Twitter, but during the course of her flight to Africa, #HasJustineLandedYet started trending #1 worldwide. So someone with a small Twitter following became the topic of a very worldwide debate over the course of a plane flight. And this shows just how fast information does propagate on the internet and on social media. So if you look at privacy between the user and third party, and privacy between user to user, it's apparent that there really isn't anything. If it's not private between user to user and not private between the user and a third party entity, begs the question, well, what is left private when using social media? And the answer really is nothing. So the next time that you post on social media, post like a stranger is watching, because they are.